Today we begin chapter 2. In this chapter we'll be talking about communication, computer essentials, and documentation, and the role they play within the medical field. Upon completion of this chapter, you will be able to outline the basic communication loop, describe the methods for effective verbal and nonverbal communication, active listening, and written communication. List examples of positive and negative body language. Describe methods to achieve uh, cultural competence and sensitivity in the workplace. Describe the basic components of the medical record and provide examples of how to maintain confidentiality and privacy related to patient information. Describe essential elements of laboratory test requisitions, specimen labels, and test results. Identify potential clerical and technical errors that may occur during labeling and documentation of phlebotomy procedures. Identify essential components and functions of computers in healthcare and list ways that healthcare workers use them to accomplish job functions. So, communication strategies for healthcare workers include the following: verbal skills, nonverbal skills, active listening, electronic devices, and handwritten language. Okay, so figure 2-1 says pretend the healthcare worker is the sender with a message to to communicate to a patient who is the receiver. He conveys the message using verbal, written, and nonverbal codes or sign language based on the knowledge about the patient and the urgency and importance of the message. The patient will understand or decode the message correctly if he or she is familiar with the verbal or body language of the healthcare workers. Feedback provides evidence that either the message was correctly received or misunderstood. If the patient did not understand correctly, more communication is needed. Note that many factors that can interfere with even a simple message. Okay, think about an example that I always give with this is think about that game that we played in grade school. It's an older game, so some of you probably didn't play it. Where the your teacher told the person at the front of the line something, and they were responsible for passing it back. And by the time the person in the back got the message that the teacher gave the first person, it's totally different. Okay, that's why it's important for you to work on your communication skills. And again, this is not just going to help you in the work field, this is going to help you in life. Okay? Think about how many times where you have said something to someone and it was taken out of context. Um, if there was any negative feedback that came from that, just think about how that would have been able to have been avoided if you communicated more effectively or if the person understood you correctly. Okay? It's extremely difficult now with the times that we live in because we spend so much time communication through electronic devices, obviously via text message. Um, your There's no emotion behind text messages, and we can throw in exclamation points and emojis and but and other things, gifs, but the message that you're trying to convey can still be easily misinterpreted through this. Right? So be mindful going forward about the things you say. A lot of things can be simple as to just it'd be a lot simpler to get your message across if you just pick the phone up and call people. I know no one likes talking on the phone, but sometimes a phone call may may help you out a great deal versus sending that text message that could be misinterpreted. Okay, so we got figure 2.2 says the degrees of communication effectiveness. It is best to talk to patients one on one with minimal distractions and in a private or semi private environment. This provides the fastest and most effective communication method in phlebotomy situations. Okay? Again, it's not just something that's going to be synonymous to work. Think about if you were in this situation with any situation in your life and this is something important or something serious or something that only you should know. Would you want a lot of people around? You probably would. Okay, because you don't know how you gonna react. You may flash out on the person that told you. You may break down and start crying. So it's important to keep those things in mind when we're dealing with patients. Again, everything that we're gonna be talking about for is communication. It's not just synonymous to the workplace. Also, you can also implement these things in your everyday life to help you become a better person. All right. We see that on the lowest, the lowest end, we just have numeric data, just a chart. Um, on the low end, written documents, email, fax, procedures. Again, you throw text messages in there. Personal letters and memos is something you just leaving a little note somewhere for yourself to do something, or words of encouragement for someone else, or a reminder for someone else to do something. Um, on the high end, phone conversations. I just gave you guys an example about how it'll be. You can ensure that the message that you're trying to get across comes across the way you want it to come across if you pick the phone up and call people. All right. But nothing tops having a face-to-face conversation, because you get to see that person, you get to hear their tone of voice, and you can make your judgment from there. Communication strategies for healthcare workers. Filters that can interfere with communication include medical terminology or jargon, language differences, sensory ability, speech and hearing impairments, pace, tone, volume of one's voice. Okay. Keep in mind that the patient isn't doesn't have any knowledge of the medical field. So you go in and start throwing in these big worms, echocardiograph, and we need 30, 37 cc's of this and that, and we need to do this type of test. They're not going to know what you're talking about. Okay. Like, again, put yourself in their shoes. You don't know you didn't know what this course was going to entail until you got into it. And when you start going over this stuff and you reading on your own, you have no idea what's going on. That's why you need the instructor, or you rely on your classmates or YouTube or whatever to help you better understand the material. So again, just be mindful of that. They're not going to know what you're talking about. Okay. So break things down in layman's terms for them so that they understand. Um, if a person speaks a different language, then please don't go in and just start passing judgment on someone because they look a certain way. Oh well, the Asian guy or the Indian woman. Let's not do that. Just say, hey, we don't speak the same language, and find out what you can do. Hopefully, if if a person is from it, is of a different nationality, they will have someone with them that can speak the language. Typically, if the patient is older, their kids will be able to understand English better. So you may have to convey the message through the kids. Um, and these are things that you can think about, that you can take into consideration when you're looking for a job. Does the place that you're seeking employment, do they have a policy in place for this? Do they have someone there that can speak another language, to help in the event that a patient comes in and they may need an interpreter. Um, Writing notes is a great way to assist that patient if you feel that they don't speak the same language, or after you engage in conversation you see that they're not picking up on what you're saying. Um, so there are ways to get your message across. You just have to be proactive, quick with it, and think, assess the situation, and pick the proper method. Sensory ability. This person has speech or hearing impairment. It could be deaf or blind, to say the least. Again, what procedures does your facility have in place to assist, to accommodate these patients with these impairments? Okay, your pace, your tone of voice, your tone and volume of voice says a lot. Right? You know how you talk when you're upset. You know how you talk when you're sad. You know how you talk when you're happy. Um, so again, take that into consideration when you're dealing with your patients. Okay? Later on in some of the future chapters we'll talk about the importance of this, especially when dealing with younger children. You don't want to create a sense of fear in a child who already has a known fear of coming into the hospital. Okay, maybe they had a nurse or a phlebotomist that drew some blood on them or stuck them last time. You know, traumatized them. So you want to try to um, dissipate any of that negative energy in that situation, and you can do that by simply um, talking slow, speaking in a tone that they can understand, and watching the volume of your voice. Play with the sound of your voice when you're dealing with kids. That things like that help them feel more comfortable. Okay, the urgency of the situation, the cultural meaning, environment, noise, gender or age. Okay. Now, again, if the situation is urgent, we need to communicate in that manner, but still keeping in mind um, everything that we just previously talked about, um, the tone of voice, the language differences, and the medical jargon, um, and things of that nature. Again, I mentioned this in one of my other lectures. People are coming to you; they're entrusting their lives and with you because they deem you to be the expert. Okay, you are in this position because you went to school, or whatever the case may be, and the person over the hospital deemed you to be a good fit to be here. So, meaning you're out here saving lives. This is what you're doing. This is what you're getting paid to do. So I expect for you to be able to do your job correctly. Just like, and the principle applies. Like, even if you go to a fast food restaurant, hey, they're paying you to flip burgers and get my order right. I need you to do that. Same thing. They expect you to be able to come in, talk to them, treat them with respect, and help them so they can be on their way. But again, so address the situation accordingly. Says if it's urgent. Cultural meanings. B it would be I would strongly encourage to start looking into other cultures again, so you just don't want to just go out and just start passing judgment on people, because that's going to create a rift in the environment, bring a lot of tension into the situation. Um, you know, based off like certain religions, you know, some people aren't allowed to talk to women, or um, those types of things. Okay, so you want to be mindful of that. Okay, Environmental noise. Okay, if you go into a patient's room and they have, if it's a hospital setting and the patient's been there, they have the TV up. Well, we can get the TV turned down. If kids are in the room playing, so you can get them to get the kids under control. They shouldn't be on the phone when you're talking to them, because again, um, all these things play a part in effective communication. And it doesn't matter if the kids are playing around, if the TV is up loud, if they're on the phone. At the end of the day, if they understand what you're saying, that's going to come back on you. Again, going back to that first example I gave you with the message with the kid at the front of the line. By the time you can tell them one thing, but in the midst of all that going on, they're not going to take any of that into consideration. What it'll be is they're coming for your job because you told them the wrong thing. Okay, so make sure we check all of these things. Okay, gender and age, and just being mindful of the people that you're talking to. Um, you might have to play on your voice. Um, use different examples when you're dealing with kids versus the examples you use when you're dealing with an adult or an older patient. Okay, um, things will be more visible on, say, a a child versus it would be maybe a than an elderly person. The older person, their veins are going to be more visible, but their veins are also more fragile. Okay, older people may tend to be um, they might not hear or understand you as clearly. Okay, so again, these are all things that you want to keep in mind when we're dealing with our patients. Okay. Um, Communicating with patients and team members. We see here in picture A, a healthcare worker is speaking with a patient and a family member. What type of communication is occurring in this image? Okay. B shows a team meeting. What essential components of communication are being demonstrated here? Here's what you guys to think about that. Okay. Verbal communication. Show empathy for waking patients up, disturbing them, or interrupting their meals. Okay? Again, always, you're gonna hear me say, excuse me, you're gonna hear me repeat this quite a few times. Put yourself in their situation. Okay? How do you feel how would you feel when you're asleep and someone comes in waking you up? Even if it is the for the greater good of you. Hey, the house on fire. I need you to get up and get out of here. You're gonna be kind of mad because you were enjoying that sleep. All right. Um, if they're on the phone talking to someone, you don't want your phone calls interrupted. Okay. Interrupting their meals. I know I speak from personal experience. Do not, do not interrupt me when I'm eating. Please don't, cause I I don't like that. Okay. Eating is my time. I want to sit down, enjoy my meal, leave me be. I don't want to be disturbed. Okay. So, but again, just be mindful of that. Okay. Show respect for their privacy, their condition, and their family members. Okay. I feel like that's self-explanatory. Just be respectful. Put yourself in their shoes. Again, respect their privacy. Don't just be walking in. Make sure that you knock. Make sure you have their attention before they start talking. Um, if it's a serious situation, um, and family members are there, like you don't want to just go in and just be heartless. Hey, dude, ma'am, you're about to die. You got 15 minutes. You wouldn't want to go in talking to them like that. Okay, so again, just be respectful. All right. Build that trust. Maintain confidentiality. Explain procedures and be truthful. Again, these people are already entrusting their situation, their lives, with you because you have been deemed the expert in this situation. So, um, while they want to trust you, they could be coming from a place where they had a bad experience. Okay, so you may have to work a little harder. Okay, um, you don't want to go around and be for you don't want to go around and be sharing that personal information with your coworkers or anyone else because you just never know who people know. Um, and you want to make sure that you explain the procedure to the best of your ability. If it's something that you're not comfortable with explaining or you don't have a thorough understanding of the situation yourself, get with someone that can walk you through it to help to ensure that the patient knows what's going on. And don't lie. Don't lie to the patient. It doesn't matter if they're old or a kid. The kid say, "Hey, is this gonna hurt when you stick me?" Oh, you may feel a little pressure, and leave it at that. Okay, just don't lie to them. Okay, again, because you won't want anyone lying to you. You won't want anyone sharing your personal business with anyone, and you would definitely want to know what's going on when someone is dealing with your body. Okay, establish rapport using common courtesy. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Thank you. Um, Showing a common interest is if you're dealing with a kid, find ways that you can incorporate something that they like into the situation. Share stories with about share situational stories with other patients to ease their mind. Oh, we had a patient in a couple years ago who exhibited some of the same symptoms, and we ran this exact test, and they were up and at them in no time. Okay. Well, again, that plays a part in explaining the procedure to them. We're building that rapport with them, letting them know that, hey, we have done this before. I understand how you feel. Um, all of that is going to make your job a lot easier. Okay, because once they feel comfortable around you, then they'll be more willing to cooperate with you. Okay. On occasion, a healthcare worker may need to sit down near the patient to spend extra time explaining the procedure or to answer questions. This healthcare worker is actually listening to the patient's concern and in a compassionate manner. Okay, we have an elderly patient here who could be, you know, who's obviously concerned about what's going on. She's in the hospital. She wants to make sure that everything is going right. So again, have to being compassionate, building that rapport with them, sharing those situationships, um, being trustworthy. It's just going to make your job easier. It's going to make them feel more comfortable, and they'll be more inclined to cooperate with you upon doing so. Okay? Listening actively. Face the patient, maintain non-authoritative posture, lean toward the patient, and establish eye contact. Listen intentionally. Right? Again, active listening. That's when someone is speaking to you. You again making eye contact with them, facing towards them to show them that you're listening. You will nod your head and just engage in the conversation. Right? Provide specific feedback about their behavior and about their procedure. Okay? Hey, I noticed that you were doing this, and this. So I feel as though this would be the best course of treatment, or you shouldn't do these things because of the course of treatment that we're going to be using. Um, this procedure has a 95% success rate. Again, they're entrusting all this info. They're entrusting you to do your job So again, providing this feedback with them, again, building that rapport is going to make the situation a lot easier. Okay? Use simple, straightforward vocabulary. Again, you want to cut out the medical terminology and jargon. Use proper pronunciation and grammar. Okay? Avoid complex jargon and medical terminology. It's pretty much the same thing that the first one said. Okay. Communication across generations. Okay. We have four major age groups that we're dealing with right now. You have your traditionalists, which people that were born prior to the mid 1940s. You have the baby boomers, which are born in the mid 40s to 1964. Generation X, who were born from 1965 to 1981, and Generation Y, or the Millennial Generation, anyone born from 82 to 2006. Okay? I've spoke about this previously, but again, just want to be this is important. It's detrimental to your how successful you're going to be. In any job or anything that you do, knowing how to effectively communicate with these different groups of people. Again, this is going to make your job easier. And we spoke about like the natural hair and tattoos and things of that nature. While you don't see it as a problem, and it may be more socially acceptable um, to be a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Forgive me, I don't know the lingo. Um, they are still people such as the traditionalists, the baby boomers, and the Generation X people who don't find that to be who don't find that to be acceptable. That those things make them uncomfortable. They associate all these things with negativity. Okay, so if you find yourself in a situation where your tattoo is showing, even though you have on long sleeves, or they don't like your hair, they don't like the color of your skin, hey, there's no need to get mad. Respectfully bow out of the situation, find someone else to accommodate them, and leave it be. Okay, just leave it be. There's no sense in causing an uproar, because at the end of the day, the patient is always right. This company is paying you. These patients are paying them. You're costing them money because they have to pay you. And if you're if anything about you deters the patient away, so now the company's losing money, hey, guess what? You have to go because you're costing me money. That's the breakdown in its simplest straightforward form. Okay. Millennials, the youngest of the workforce, may actually value the same things as their older counterparts. Healthcare workers can benefit from an awareness of commonalities and differences among the generations. Okay. Um, millennials supposed to be millennials really should be running the world, but unfortunately, we're at the we're at the discretion of Generation X and the baby boomers, um, who are still in control of everything, and you know there's a great disconnect between the millennial generation, especially with communication, because millennials came in, um, they were they had lived in a time where there weren't any cell phones, and you still had to go visit your friends and family via car, and kids still went outside and played. To They seen the birth of the computers and cell phones, to now that's the way of the world. Um, the Generation Z, like those people born after 2007 and present, like they already they feel accustomed to these things. That's why they don't. I'm not gonna say that's why they don't, but it's a norm for them. They wouldn't be able to imagine a time where cell phones weren't a thing. Right? Um, So again, just being mindful of that is going to help bridge that gap between you, your patients, and your coworkers, um, and it's just going to make everything a lot easier at the job when we're working. Right? Languages other than English, it is estimated that about 460 languages are spoken in the U.S. Patients who do not speak English can understand basic forms, basics from nonverbal cues. Healthcare workers must know how to access translation services. Again, I spoke about this. Thinking about when we're thinking about working at places, find out like what systems are in place to help with these situations. Okay, um, because that could be the key to someone choosing your facility for healthcare or any services versus going somewhere else. Okay? Um, the I spoke about a good characteristic to have is being efficient. Again, companies want to make money, so if you can um, help them bring in more patients, which is going to bring in more money. That's going to speak volumes about you. That'll help them view you in a good light um, for future positions going forward because you're helping them out. Shows that you're innovative. Right? It doesn't take again with the times that we live in. Learning a second language is Um, a lot easier now than it has ever been. And apps on your phone, you have the Duolingo app, you have Rosetta Stone, all these things. I mean, and the Duolingo app, that's free. You can download that on your phone and you can practice in like 5 minutes, something around about 5-10 minutes a day. You can be well on your way to learning a new language. Like Rosetta Stone, you have to pay for that, but and that's another good one to use. So I'd encourage you guys to learn another language because again, it's all about the value that you bring to the company. And if you know another language and you can bridge that gap in communication between the physician and the patient, again, that's just going to make you seem like appears to be a superhero. Okay, so it's only going to help you out. They have just like traveling nurses are a thing, and well, every position in the medical field, just about almost every position in the medical field has a traveling position. They also have bilingual positions. So, and you can make some pretty good money. I'm doing that. If you can travel and you know another language, yeah, that would be great. Okay. How to access translation services, healthcare workers who speak other language, audio recordings, written information in patient language, language services available by phone or internet. Again, um, and Google has the translating translator effect. You can use that again depending on where you work. So if you work at a private practice and the lead doctor there is a baby boomer or a Generation Xer and they're not too tech savvy, and you show them that hey, there's an app that we can use to talk to patients from a different country. Sounds to me like you just showed them you struck gold with them. Okay, so so a little trick that you can keep in your back pocket to use if you ever find yourself in that situation. Um, Written information in the patient language. If there's a patient there, um, and you notice that they are from there, one of your coworkers identifies as being of that being a member of that culture and seeking the assistance of your coworker. would help also. Maybe they know some of the language and they could write it out for you. But again, it just depends. Like I said earlier, depending on with the age range. Say if people came over from another country and they were say traditionalists, baby boomers, or Generation X, and they had kids. 9 out of 10 their kids are going to speak English, and because with the advancement of technology, especially if they fall in the generation, the millennial generation, where um, cell phones and things of that nature unfolded in front of them, that is a lot more interesting than learning about the culture of your family. So you start seeing that disconnect there within the millennial generation. So I wouldn't bank on that, but it would be great to know if they could help you out. Again, grabbing those apps and putting in that time could help you out also. All right. Communication of other groups, the LGBTQ individuals who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or questioning their gender identity. Um, these people have an agenda. This group of people has an agenda. They know who they are. They know how they want to be identified. They know how they want to be identified. They know who they are. And because they know this, they put together an agenda, and this agenda helped them get established. And this is why they have incorporated this into the textbooks. They want to make sure that you address these people with the same respect that you would address anyone else. Make sure you know make sure you know the pronouns so you can talk to them in the proper manner. Again, with the communication being confidential, the confidentiality when speaking with them going forward. If we have any information that we need to convey to a coworker or about them, and it's not something you want to go around just yelling out. Be respectful to and be sensitive to their needs when doing so. Transgender individuals whose gender identity or expression does not align with their assigned birth sex. And just being mindful and being respectful of this going forward when we're interacting with this group of people. Okay, immigrants and refugees, language differences, cultural differences, fears of being in a new country. Helpful if their clinical conditions for helpful to their clinical conditions for them to feel safe in a healthcare environment. Again, that's why it's important to practice communication, knowing what services are available for you at your house, at your place of employment, just to ease that burden for them, make them feel comfortable. Again, once they feel comfortable, they'll be more inclined to talk to us, and it'll make our jobs a lot easier. Okay, sensory impairments, healthcare workers knowledgeable about the sensitivity to patients who have impaired hearing or sight, deafness, or blindness. Okay, again, you don't just grab your chart and just go in and start talking to a patient and you realize why this person not responding to me. Especially you didn't do your job, you didn't read your chart. This person's deaf. They can't hear you. You want to just walk in and start talking to a person and it's okay, Mr. Mrs. Ma'am, can you just get up and just follow me down the hall? Hey, they're blind. They can't see you. All right. So being mindful of that, paying attention to your surrounding, what's going on in the environment around you. Look for their walking stick. Um, so we can make sure we provide them with their proper accommodations. All patients, regardless of impairments, must understand healthcare procedures before beginning. Oh well, they definitely blind. We just gonna do it anyway. I'm not about to waste my time explaining this. No. That will surefire. That will surefire way to get fired, and bet there'll be a lawsuit waiting around the corner for you too. All right. Again, take all these things into consideration. Make sure that you're communicating effectively. Read your charts, and again, the rest will take care of itself. All right. sensory impairments. If patient does not hear, try speaking slightly louder, not shouting, and slower, and repeat statements if needed. Okay, again, put yourself in their situation. Select the best options of communication, written instructions, audible aids, tablet computer, smartphones, etc. If needed, seek assistance from a sign language interpreter. Okay, and we're gonna put a pin in it and stop here for today.